Hey there, everyone. This is Heather Van Wild with Raindrop Works. Coming to you with a quick update to a case that we hadn't really been following too much because we were more focused on the criminal side of things. But we actually had a pretty quick resolution to this case. This was the first of 3 civil lawsuits against Alan Swinney, who, as many people who watch this channel know, recently got found guilty of a number of assault type charges, including a Measure 11 charge just a couple months ago for actions that he took at a protest in August of 2020. So this particular case here was Meg McLean suing Alan Swinney for civil damages when he allegedly shot her with a paintball gun followed by pepper spray at another time during the day. In the criminal trial, the jury did find that he was guilty of the pepper spray charge, but did not come back with a guilty verdict on him shooting her with the paintball gun. At the time, basically, the argument with that was that the color of paintball that she got hit with was not the same kind that he said that he was using in his paintball gun that day. And without any way to accurately prove that he was the only one who was able to shoot her at the time, it gave enough reasonable doubt for the jury to find him not guilty on that one charge, while every other charge stuck. So, just want to look really quick here. We had the complaint that had been filed in August, very late August of 2020 here. As you can see here, the amount that they were originally suing for was $250,000 for assault and battery charges as well as emotional damages. When I spoke to Ms. McLean after the hearing today, she did confirm something that she had actually said to me privately several times before, but her reason for filing this lawsuit was because it had been an attack that had happened directly in front of the police, and they did nothing to address things at the time. And it says here, this was on August 22nd, and they filed the lawsuit August 31st, so a little over a week later, when there was no indication that police were doing anything to take the assault seriously. This seemed to be an ongoing issue that we've had with the racial justice protests that have been going on in Portland over the summer of last year, where assaults against Black Lives Matter, quote-unquote Antifa, or what I will collectively call leftist type protesters, were their complaints of brutality against them were largely ignored by law enforcement because, we're protesting the very things that they're upholding. So, she filed this lawsuit because the criminal justice system didn't seem to be taking her complaint seriously. Now, we did find out, a few weeks after that, a grand jury indictment, or actually no, it wasn't much longer after, but a grand jury indictment had come out and indicted him on a number of charges related to his actions that day. Actually, on 2 particular different days. So there was a manner of accountability that came from his convictions, which again, those who follow the channel know that his sentencing is scheduled for Friday in those criminal charges. We are monitoring the situation, and once we have better information about how we can handle the broadcast, that is definitely something that we're going to be working on. We're communicating with the courts right now, and hopefully be able to get more information on that. As far as what's going on, we're talking about a civil lawsuit that just finished up today against Alan Swinney, related to the assault incidences from August of 2020. So today was supposed to be jury selection and then likely the beginning of the trial. And I was down at the courthouse in anticipation of it, and just before the jury selection process started, the two parties did reach a settlement, which honestly, it gave Miss McLean everything she asked for, and yet at the same time, it didn't give anything. I don't have the actual paperwork yet because it has just been submitted to the court. It hasn't been scanned in or uploaded or anything yet, but I do plan to get the information. That said, the settlement that was reached, Mr. Swinney did essentially agree to a judgment of $250,000 for assault and battery, which was exactly what was being asked for in this complaint here. However, as part of it, there is a covenant not to execute, which basically means that paperwork is getting put on the record that while there is a judgment that he does technically owe her $250,000, they're not going to actively try to collect on that money. They're not going to do things that you may have in other situations, like try to go after his commissary funds for when he's in jail, put liens against any kind of GoFundMe programs or anything like that. They're also not seeking any prevailing party fees or attorney's fees, which are things that you normally will have when you have one party that has put all this work in, and then the case just ends, or their case has been vindicated. So one of the other things that we've run into with this, oh yes, she was the one who got shot in the chest with the paintball. Let me see. Yeah, the pictures that are in this are from her injuries. I don't have a ready picture of her, but she was one of the victims from the big trial, yes. I just my brain blanked. I've been up very late and I'm overdue for sleep. Anyway, so the funding is not something they're actively going to be going after. Essentially, Alan Swinney is what in the legal field they call judgment proof, which is basically a situation where somebody has so little income and resources that it doesn't matter if a judgment is put against them for $1,000 or $100 million. You're not going to be able to get the money. So, answering the question, why would they have a juror selection again? This was for a civil trial, and in a civil trial, you can have a trial with, with jurors. The biggest difference between a civil trial and a criminal trial in this case is the weight of evidence, and burden of proof for your case. In a criminal case, you have to be able to prove to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that what you say the defendant did, they actually did. In a civil trial, it's only a case of, is it more likely true than not? Basically, if it's 51% likely that it's true, then it's true for a civil trial. And yeah, it was made very clear, all parties, including the judge, recognize that because of the way this judgment is being structured, it's incredibly unlikely that Mr. Swinney will ever pay a cent on it. He would have to voluntarily do that, and people don't like to voluntarily give large sums of money to people. From what I saw and heard of the trial, as well as my interview with Ms. McLean afterwards, it definitely seems like, we have gotten acknowledgement that he has civilly accepted his responsibility for what he did to her. Even though he will probably get out of this feeling like he won because there's nothing forcing him to pay any of the money. And he may very well still feel like, even though he's been convicted, he didn't actually do anything wrong. I have not spoken to him, so I don't have direct confirmation. That just is my feeling from the way that I observed his interactions with the court today, as well as people that actually O.J. Simpson, it kind of yes, but this is almost in an opposite way. O.J. was, at least when we look at the murder trial, he was acquitted on the murder, but because of the lower burden of evidence, he was found responsible in the civil trial. And that was something that, when I talked to Ms. McLean afterwards, I pointed out, she already got a guilty verdict on him using pepper spray on her. That, as well as the fact that he did not have a lawyer for this, because a right to public defender is only a right that you have in criminal trials. When it's a civil trial, you don't have that. So he was representing himself because he had lost his lawyers that were originally helping him through the Oliveros Law Group. Whatever circumstances caused them to step out, I don't think we'll ever actually know. And that's perfectly fine. But yeah, so the short of it here, Meg McLean did get a judgment in her favor, $250,000, but she will likely never see a penny of that from that judgment. That being said, there are still, let's see if it's gonna, yep, it kicked me out. There are still a few other cases going on here that we're going to need to keep an eye out. There's a very large case here of 4 individuals suing Alan Swinney, David Willis, and Corey Wyatt for injuries that were sustained in similar circumstances that are totaling $1.25 million. That lawsuit was stayed, which is basically they put it on hold, and my understanding at the time was mostly because Mr. Swinney's criminal trial was still going on, and to protect his right to Fifth Amendment self-incrimination, they put a stay on the trial. The Britton versus Alton Swinney civil trial is the other one that comes directly from the criminal trial. Jason Britton is the one who was shot in the head with the paintball gun and was one of the guilty verdicts that the criminal trial came out. That one is also stayed and is a $200,000 lawsuit. It's probably going to be at least a few more months before we see anything really happen with either of these. But we do have, on Friday, is the scheduled sentencing. So I do just want to touch base here real quick with what we know and don't know about that sentencing for Friday. I have been in touch with the court judicial assistant for Judge Moad. They are working with the judge who is working with the parties in the case. The goal is to continue the same media order from the trial through the sentencing, which will mean I'll be able to run a full live stream like we did through the trial, have the video on screen and everything. If not, I have been confirmed that there are at least plans to have separate viewing rooms at the courthouse, like they did for the trial, so that those who are there to support the victims and those who are there in support of Mr. Swinney have individual rooms that they can go to. And I'll admit, I was at the courthouse today. I was in a viewing room with a handful of people that were there supporting Mr. Swinney. I felt awkward. Nothing happened, but there was a tension in the air that I was kind of glad that everything ended as quickly as it did. That said, the judicial assistant has said that there are plans to at least have a WebEx live stream coming from the courthouse for people to remote view. If for some reason I don't get permission to rebroadcast that, I still plan to run a live stream and will do what I can to allow people to access directly from the court as easily as possible. If that happens, people just maybe have, if they have two screens, or courtroom on one screen, me on the other, or just watch the courtroom or whatever. Yeah, I only know a couple of the people who were there today, and since they weren't called as witnesses, I don't feel particularly comfortable naming names right now. But they were people who, according to Mr. Swinney, on the... Actually, you know what? No, I can name because I'll be getting the court audio later and sending it out. And this stuff was said on the record, so it'll come out later anyway. It was a husband and wife, last name was Bissell, or something similar to that. Supposedly they were at the protest, and one of them, Mr. Swinney claimed, was a volunteer deputy with the Multnomah County Sheriffs at the time, which I don't know anything about what that is. So, yeah, I mean, that's the first time I've heard something like that, but I'm not saying this for people to try to go digging or anything, but this is, as far as I know, is already in public knowledge, so. But yeah, there was, basically there was an offer made. It was only going to be on the table as long as he took it before jury selection started. He took it. They canceled jury selection, canceled the trial. We all went home, and yeah, that's basically. Like I said, until we have Friday morning, that's the last we'll be hearing from him. But once I know more, I am, still fine tuning my live stream setup here. It's not quite what I'm looking for, but we're getting close. Trying to get it to more what I'm actively looking for. That said, that's really about all that I had today. I definitely appreciate, got a few people that joined in to watch and listen, and hopefully things might make a little bit more sense, and we'll be having a better idea going into I right now I don't really know. I've been trying to keep an eye on, and I can actually pull up the criminal case here really quick. I've been trying to keep an eye on the docket, and I haven't seen anything new. But yeah, nothing new since the exhibit documentation after the trial. Yeah, I've been kind of going back and forth trying to figure it out. I honestly suspect, I'm gonna say maybe like 6 years, maybe eligible for parole after 2, which then he's already served a year because he's been in pretrial confinement. A lot of the other charges, because here's the whole charge list here on the screen. With the exception of charge number 6 here, this second assault in the second degree, he was found guilty on all of them. So 4 Class C felonies, a Class B felony, which was a measure 11, and then a handful of misdemeanors. When I've looked at other multi-charge cases, most often I see judges do sentencing concurrently, where basically you're only serving the longest sentence in the whole thing. Oh yeah, they can still give time served, and they essentially they have to. So he's already got 15 months credit because he's, or well, no, 14 months by then because he was arrested October 1st, 2020, I believe. If he had made bail, then all of that time he had been out on bail, he wouldn't have qualified. But yeah, I've tried to look. I was able to find the sentencing guideline grid that the DA and the judges use. And while I haven't had any training in it or anything, I have tried to look at the severity of the charge. He doesn't really have much of a past criminal record. To my knowledge, the only thing that he's had is a DUI a number of years ago in Texas, which, as far as I can tell, was basically nothing in this regard. So yeah, it's hard for me to tell, how long we could be looking at. There are things that can be used to suggest upward or downward departures on Measure 11 charges. From what I heard testimony in the trial, I don't think he would qualify for a downward departure because And again, for Measure 11, we're only looking at the first assault in the second degree charge, because that's the only one of these that he was found guilty on. That's Measure 11. And that's the one where he shot Jason Britton in the head. The way that it was described in testimony about how long he had, or that as of the time of the trial, he was still having vision issues and such periodically, gave me the impression that he would not qualify for a downward departure on the mandatory minimum sentencing from Measure 11. There are certain instances where a judge could do an upward departure and give more time. I don't know if that's something that Judge Moad would look at. That's part of the investigations that have been going on between the trial and now, has been the DA looking more into Mr. Swinney's past to give all that information to the court. And whoever is still representing Mr. Swinney is going to take that information and try to say, well, here's mitigating circumstances why you should look at not doing as strong a sentence. And we could be looking at, there's going to be jail time. I think there will still be some. I don't think it's going to be a time served situation. There could be monetary fines. There's probably going to be probation, a supervised probation after he gets out of jail. With having felony convictions, that does trigger in a whole bunch of other restrictions, such as his ability to own guns, his ability to own body armor, at least in Oregon. Those things are circumstances. So I think, no matter what comes of Friday, this is going to be a huge change in his life. And where things go from that, I've tried to do predictions, and I just don't know that I feel that I've gotten the right idea with it. While I am just, kind of killing some time here really quick, I do want to really quick say that, I am hoping to, after we get past this week, I am looking at trying to dig more into some of the other similar cases, keep an eye on the rest of his civil cases, getting back into following the civil lawsuit that Andy Ngo had filed against a handful of individuals, as well as Rose City Antifa. The Joey Gibson and that whole set of cases from Cider Riot in 2019, I know those have been going on. A whole bunch of police-involved cases, such as retired Officer Groshung, who was arraigned for I'm blanking the specific terminology of the charge, but it was basically like inappropriate police duties when supposedly hit somebody in the early nights of the George Floyd protests. Also watching Brett Taylor's civil lawsuit. Officer Corey Budworth, he is the one officer from the rapid response team who was indicted by the county DA. Another one that we're trying to keep an eye on is Eric Kammerer. That is the one that a year ago was referred to the Oregon Department of Justice for investigation. The county DA said there was concerns about a conflict of interest. And a year later, we still haven't heard anything, which is interfering with a number of other cases as well. And we also have the new case, Logan Gimbel, who was the security officer up at the up in North Portland, who shot and killed the one person at the bottle drop. That he was just arraigned on charges last week. So yeah, I know I haven't been getting a whole lot done the last couple months, and I really feel bad about that. I've been dealing with kind of burnout and other projects and stuff, but I'm really hoping I can try to get a system down where I can spend time, working on this stuff again and communicate more with everybody else, and hopefully we can get good things going together. So that being said, definitely thank you for tuning in and sticking with us here. Been a nice little half hour. If you like the work that we do have our link tree down in the video description here. You can definitely access all the rest of our social media. If you want to help us out further, we also on there do have links for Patreon sponsors as well as direct donation options. But even if you don't want to or you're not able to, definitely just sharing this out and getting the word out is also a big help. In the meantime, though, thanks for thanks for tuning in, thanks for joining us, and have a great day.